Number 3, what practical suggestions do you take or might prefer to take to improve, facilitate communication in order to improve information literacy between school librarians and school teachers, efforts to prepare high school students for college-level research, between high school librarians and public librarians and college librarians, between college librarians and school librarians?
Well, I think it's very, very helpful just to hear everybody's perspective on this and have this opportunity. I mean, you seldom have this opportunity. The only feedback I actually get is when our graduates come back, and I always ask them, I corner them, were you prepared? What did you feel weak in? What do we need to work more on? Did you feel confident? And that's about the only feedback I really have as a high school English teacher. Most of my students, feel very confident going in because they've written a research paper every year since 7th grade. And having that, they pretty much get the lay of the land. They are required to use databases, and they know how to do the MLA format. I mean, they're pretty, because that's our program at our school. I'm not certain, in talking to other high school teachers, that they do that at all schools. Some of them don't start a research paper until the junior year. But we start at 7th grade with a very interesting type paper called an iSearch paper. And that's where they select the topic themselves, and it usually relates to them. And I say, don't pick a topic your mom wants you to pick or your dad wants you to pick. This needs to be something you are interested in. You are going to research it. And I've had some incredible papers. I had one paper where the girl's grandfather was an older barber, and he had one of the first barbering books ever printed, and it talked about the red and white. The red stood for the blood and how they would leach blood, and the white was the bandages. And I had another student who was interested in wolves and Alaskan sled dogs, and they had to interview somebody for this paper. And she actually interviewed one of the participants in the Iditarod, and that person emailed back, and turns out that year that person won the Iditarod. So I've just had some incredible experiences where kids really get involved in studying something that they select. And I think that's one of the keys to getting them started into research, is pick something that they want to do.
Well, that speaks to what we in public libraries really try in every way and in every day is we're not school. We don't care and we don't judge. We want you to do what you want to do, and we want to foster an enthusiasm, a love of reading, and we don't care what you read. We really don't. So we love it when the papers are not just, I'm on a mission to stamp out the scarlet letter as we know it. I am tired of 9th grade boys being forced to write papers on the scarlet letter. I have ideas on how they can do this too. But that was always my mission when I would go to the schools, and I would do guided things with each classroom that would have me on whatever they were doing, not just in the English classes, though that's the natural fit, but I love to go to the history classes, the journalism classes. I love to judge a social studies fair. Oh, I love to do that. And I love science fair projects too. Because there's a difference between search and research, and they actually get to do some research, not just searching. So practical suggestions for all of these A, B, and C parts, coming from the public library perspective, is we must have open lines of communication. It's in the 70s and 80s, again and again, teachers would assign things, again, thinking in their milieu, of course they should have this, because I'm the only teacher in the world who needs this, and only my students need this. Now, we have databases now, so we can have some digital duplication, and teachers, thank Thank you so much. It's no longer, I must have 10 different books, and they may not be books that are also on the internet. You know, we had teachers who, they only wanted the brown books from Gale, but you couldn't give them the CLC online. No, that's not the same thing. It's like, I wanted to hurt those people. I still do. Well, I'll tell you what, in the public library, if you print it out in PDF form, it looks just like a Xerox page from a book. So, but practical things, you really can't do too much to inspire the no fear, because some, you know, they feel that they feel they're not smart, and only smart people can write term papers. It's like, my gosh, what's a term paper? You know, it's just a layer upon layer upon layer. And if you get them to understand that if you talk out loud for 5 minutes and then you try to transcribe that, as I have done, you know, you got a 30-page paper right there. And so, again, don't fear. I really need the teachers to communicate with the public librarians, and I need the teachers to communicate with their school media specialists. Now, some schools have a wonderful relationship. Some curriculum heads work with the teachers in the school throughout the district, and they work with the school supervisor of librarians, and they work with the individual media specialists in the school libraries. And then we try to work with those people too, so that we get a heads up, because you can't all have 10 books to bring to class the day of the Black History Report. You just can't. So we need to be realistic about what we can provide in duplicate form, what still exists, because if the teacher assigned the assignment since 1985 and still expects me to have back issues in print of Sports Illustrated from 1975, I'm sad to tell her, they're in the dump. So we need the communication. That's the most practical thing there. And then we'll just keep trying to up with people and get the parents calm.
I'm going to go with what she said about the communication thing, because I know, especially as a high school student, it's incredibly intimidating to walk into the library and try to explain to the librarian what you need. And you feel exactly what you were saying, where you feel dumb and you're like, I can't write a term paper, and what is this? And then, you walk into the public school library and you're like, I have to write a term paper on the scarlet letter. And as a guy, you're saying that about as quietly as you ever humanly possibly could, because you don't even want to read the book. And it took me until about my sophomore year of college to kind of get over that fear of, and that goes for walking into professors' offices and librarians, and you're there like anybody else, and you're as smart as anybody else, and you can do it. You just have to kind of get over that initial intimidation factor, and it'd be really nice to have the teachers already communicated with both with the school librarian and the public library system as to what they're doing and what they could kind of, what they want. Instead, when you walk in, the librarian already has an idea of how to guide you. They're not completely as caught by surprise as you are by the assignment and what all you're doing there.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that it would help to communicate also is what the final product is going to be and what the research is for, and it would help to communicate that to students. That's something I've had to work and think about how I can make clear to my students is, what should your research paper end up looking like, and giving them that sense before they even begin the research project. So looking at samples of student papers that have done well on the assignment in the past. And also, the books that we're reading a lot of times are researched, and so thinking about after we discuss the book or the article or whatever, not just its content and the ideas in it, but what do you think the author who published this had to do to get the research to incorporate into the paper, and what are the various ways that they used the research? When are they using it to support the point that they're making? When are they using it to be a counterpoint or to have address a counter argument? Just thinking about the different levels of research that go into a product. And I think it helps demystify it and also give students a sense that they're not doing this just because the instructor has given them an assignment and they have to follow steps 1, 2, 3, but that the steps 1, 2, 3 can actually lead to a tangible, real-life product. And I think one thing that could help that I hope to see more of is college instructors talking to high school instructors and showing them the type of assignments that students are expected to do, and also how we can let high school or incoming college students build on the skills that they're taking into college. So a lot of students that I encounter are really good at summarizing. They've had a lot of practice with that. Their teachers must have spent a lot of time explaining to them the importance of it. But thinking about how can you move from just summarizing to incorporating other people's work in more sophisticated ways or for different purposes. So.
Sure. I just wanted to make a comment on what you said, Erin, about what is expected in the paper. I usually try to give the students a rubric, and they do get sample copies of good papers that I pass around or I put on my Promethean board for them to see, so that they actually have, this is what I'm expecting in your paper. And I think that guides them. And then also in middle and high school, by giving them a timeline of the steps, it's not as overwhelming. Note cards, first set of note cards, second set of note cards, third set, outline, rough draft, works cited list, that sort of thing. It seems to really help them because, again, it's overwhelming if you wait till the last minute, like we know some students always do. But this way, they are losing grades if they haven't turned it in as they go along, and that's more of an incentive for them to work along with you. And so it keeps students from totally waiting until the last night. You still have those students, the last day of school trying to turn in a term paper. But I think that rubric helps, and doing it step by step is one of the keys. And of course, having that relationship with your school librarian is the key. I take my students to the library once every 3 weeks, and I insist, they have to read 3 books each quarter for a total of 12. So I just think that having a good relationship with your school librarian who understands what your needs are is critical.
We still have them the last day researching.
Yeah.
I think what I'm going to do right now is open it up to the